Welcome to today's interview with Connor and Lauren. They have ran over $1.2 million in the POD space. So I'm really excited to dive into their story today. I know they have a lot of value they can pour in on this video. So we're going to hear about their story and what they've done. They've also been coaching in ICP for the last, 6 months or so since February. So really excited to hear what they've done working with clients and what they've done in their business. So let's jump right in. Thank you guys so much for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So before we get too far into things, could you guys maybe tell me your story from your perspective and let everyone kind of know what is Connor and Lauren's story?
Yeah, so Lauren and I are married. We started selling on Etsy back in 2020 when we were actually still dating at the time. And we were home for COVID, like everyone else at that time.
Mhm.
And we were thinking, what could we make for my mom for Mother's Day? Because that was right around the corner. And what we ended up making was this wooden cutout of a black lab dog out of plywood. And it was kind of life size and went in her garden. But that's what started our journey on Etsy. And it ended up being the first product that we sold on Etsy. And up to that point, we'd never done anything in business, nothing with online business, just kind of started to figure it out as we went through YouTube and learning from other people online. And
Yeah.
so we had some success over those 2 years doing that woodworking business. Nothing too crazy, but it was a heck of a lot of work. And it taught us some invaluable lessons that we'll always cherish, right? Those
Mhm.
early years. And so, kind of along the way, learning on YouTube in 2021, we stumbled across print on demand, and
Mhm.
we were just blown away at the time, like everyone else. You can have a business anywhere in the world, don't have to carry inventory, you just need a laptop, and you can have a full business. So,
Mhm.
we started to dive into that while we were still doing the woodworking stuff and started selling t-shirts and sweatshirts through Printify. We had some early success, but nothing too crazy until 2022 when we stumbled across you, Jesse, and we took your course. And pretty much coming right out of that, implementing those strategies, our sales numbers just exploded in our t-shirt and sweatshirt shop. And a few months later, Lauren opened up a second Etsy shop selling Christmas ornaments at the time, also through Printify that year, and implemented those same strategies. And for a brand new shop, the sales went crazy that first Christmas season. And it was awesome to see, for us to recognize, the methods that we learned and implemented in the t-shirt shop worked across multiple product categories. So that doubled down for us and told us, like, there's something here. And so there were a lot of issues with Printify that year. They ran out of inventory. The quality was terrible, but like everything, you work through it and you take away lessons. And we came out on the other side, better Etsy sellers. So 2023 rolled around, ICP became a real thing, Inner Circle Prints, and we signed up right away. We just knew how crazy of an opportunity it was to be able to work with you, Jesse, more one on one, and your production team, and have access to these new product categories. And so we've been selling with Inner Circle Prints since. Uh, we passed $1 million in sales earlier this year. Was a cool milestone. We're now at around 1.2. We'll probably
Mhm.
finish the year at 1.5, which seems like a crazy number, but we're humbled all the time looking around. We meet people in this industry now, and they just humble us with the numbers they run. So we have a lot to grow still, and we're excited to do that and continue to sell on Etsy. And so we got married last August in 2023, in the middle of selling on ICP. So fast forward from when we were dating and making that wooden dog. And
Wow.
then here we are in 2024. We came on board, like Chintzy mentioned, to help do some coaching with the Inner Circle Prince students. And it's just been awesome, like getting to meet each of those people and hear about their stories and their goals, and just play like such a small part in their journey and be able to sew into people's lives and pour out what we've learned. And yeah, we tell everyone that we work with, like, we want them to be more successful than we've ever been, or at least have the opportunity to be, right? They have to put in the work at the end of the day. They're the business owner, but like, we really mean that when we say it. Like,
Mhm.
we want to help people and pour into them. So yeah, that's a little bit of our story from when we started on Etsy to where we are now. We also work full time still. So I'm a mechanical engineer. Lauren works with people with disabilities. And I just mentioned that not to say like, oh, look at everything we're doing, but more so from a point of motivation. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people are trying to do this as a side hustle at the start, and it can turn into like a very successful business that makes more than most people's 9 to 5s. And
Mhm.
so it's very possible you can absolutely do this while
Yeah.
working a job. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. No, thank you so much for sharing all that. There's a lot to gather from everything you just mentioned with that. From one, following the process in full. Once you found out about opportunity online, you were doing something that wasn't as scalable before, and then finding a vehicle like POD to be able to do this at a much more scalable rate. And that's one of the biggest things with POD that gives so many people opportunity. Someone who is pressed with not enough space or pressed with not enough time or whatever it may be, the resources are available. And that's the beauty of print on demand. So I'm really glad you highlighted that there. And super, super glad to have you guys on the team. I hope I tell you guys enough because you guys are absolute rock stars. And sometimes I'm like, how do you guys do it? I don't know how you guys coach, you guys work full time, and you run a 7-figure Etsy shop. So pretty awesome. I think you'll probably leave your jobs potentially sometime soon. I know you guys are pretty passionate about what you do, but super cool. So with that being said, let's move on to the next part here. I got my questions on the side. So, what amount of revenue do you expect to generate just for 2024? So, by the end of Q4, what are you expecting to generate this year?
Yeah. So it's really hard to tell, right? So in Jesse, you know better than anyone, like Q4s are crazy. We're heading into our fifth Q4 here,
Yeah.
Christmas season, and every year it exceeds our expectations, right? You can never really over prepare, but
Uh-huh.
we think somewhere in around 700K will probably fall this
Uh-huh.
year. So
That's
yeah.
awesome. How many units is a question? How many units roughly have you sold just through Inner Circle Prints only? So you are one of our top sellers inside the program. What's your total unit count you've sold with ICP?
I'd have to double check the numbers, but I think over 20,000 probably at this point, in
That's
that range.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Congrats on that. Super cool. Okay, perfect. So let's move down the list here. So, what would you say is the reason you're able to drive such amazing results in 2024? Because a lot of people do talk about the saturation in POD, the difficulties to drive success today. I wish I would have gotten to this years ago or whatever it may be. But this year, you guys are going to hit, sounds like personal records in the space, $700,000 for the year. So, what is allowing you to do that in this market?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that's allowing us to get, those types of numbers is staying consistent and really focusing on one product and building that out completely. And then kind of going back to what Connor said, sticking to the course. Like we really do practice what we preach to our students, and we lean into building that foundation and executing with the research that we've done. So I think the biggest thing for us is just staying focused and not getting distracted with everything else that's out there, because there's just so much out there that you can get distracted with. So we really put the blinders on and put our heads down and focus and know that we're going to come out on top if we stay consistent and focus on one product. So that's
Hmm.
what our goal is for Q4. Obviously, we'll be going into ornaments,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, that's the biggest thing that we do is really stick to consistency and build that foundation super strong.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that you said you practice what you preach, and that's the cool thing with ICP is that you guys are in the trenches now. It wasn't that you were in the trenches before. You guys are building your business today. You're coaching people today, so you get to show them the exact path to go on if they want to be successful. Because I know you guys pour in so much time, so much effort, and obviously you don't cut corners. Because if you cut corners, you would not be in the position you are today. So super awesome to see. I love that you guys are hitting PRs today and jamming. It all comes down to consistency with the right practices in place. That's so cool. So if you were to backtrack, so let's say you go back to day one, you're hopping into POD day one. What would you say you would do differently that you maybe did before that would allow you to drive results a little bit quicker if you were starting out brand new to the space?
Yeah, I think I'll just reiterate or emphasize basically what Lauren was saying with the single products, right? And you preach this as well, Jesse. Like, it's so important. There's so many shiny objects in this space now, and production partners, and they continue to offer all these really cool products. And there's always the next best thing.
Mhm.
The people who win in this game are the ones, like Lauren said, who put those blinders on and can like stay focused and truly become the master in the product category that they're working on and drive the sales numbers and results that they want before they move on to that next thing. And so, looking back, we were all over the place like many other people. You watch YouTube videos and, oh, there's the next best thing, and you chase that. And so, just staying focused and like spending more time than you think in the research and in your listing photos. Like, when we execute a new product launch nowadays, and every time we do a new one, we end up spending way, way more time in the research and in the listing photos before we're even ready to post a single product. Whereas, like, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who see a YouTube video for a new product and get all excited, which they should be excited, but then they go post a listing that day, and it's like they're completely missing that huge foundational step that should take you weeks, even months, to be ready for a launch. And so, looking back, that's exactly what we would do. We would double down on one product and spend more time up front building that solid foundation.
Yeah, love that. That's the paradox of the entire equation, I feel like, with any business, but especially POD, is that when you approach it from a patient perspective, when you're doing the internal work, when you're not doing a lot of output in the beginning, you're doing all of that front end learning and understanding, and like you said, focusing on one product, you're getting almost nothing done, quote unquote, during that time frame. At least that's what it feels like to the average seller. But that is the time frame when you're learning the most, you're going to be equipped the most, and then when you do go to making your first listing, it's going to be a standout. And I think that you guys have embodied that so well. I know with ICP, I believe you guys have now launched 3 product types with ICP. What's your total listing count you have for Inner Circle Prince fulfillment products?
I think 800.
Yeah, over 800,
Mhm.
right? Between the 3 product categories, like you said, the skinny tumblers, the glass cups, and the Christmas ornaments.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you focused in on 3 product types, not 10. You focused on 3 and you did those one at a time. Your first year, I know you were doubling down on tumblers, and you were using ornaments previously with Printify. So you were kind of switching things over to ICP and kind of refine that as well. And then, in May, you were gearing up for your next product launch, which was with the frosted cup. So I love to just like hear the different focuses you've done there, but you haven't wavered from that. You didn't try to do one of everything. I know there's always those hot videos on YouTube, like the hottest POD product here, or like the best opportunity there is here. And it's so much boom, boom, boom coming at you, shiny objects. So I'm glad you guys have not wavered and you've stayed consistent with that, because you can see it pays off massively. So if anyone gets, one thing out of this entire interview is choose one product type. I don't care what it is, and become a master of that one product type. And you will see much better results than if you try to dabble into multiple. So thank you so
Yeah,
much for sharing that.
I'll just add one thing to that, Jesse.
Yeah.
I think that even applies to people already in Inner Circle Prince or who are looking to join, right? Like,
Yeah.
Jesse, by default, just his personality is like the greatest hype man and can like sell any new
True.
product, right? And so there's always new products that
Yeah.
come to the ICP catalog, and we've experienced it for us. Like,
Mhm.
last Christmas, right before Christmas, you launched jewelry, and that's like the number one product on Etsy.
Uh-huh.
There's the most demand. Etsy's known for jewelry, and we told ourselves, like, we can't even watch the training video because we were in the middle of our ornament build out, and we were like, we cannot watch this video because we're going to want to do it. And
Yeah.
we doubled down on
Yeah.
ornaments and absolutely crushed it last year.
Uh-huh.
So we're a testament to that. That actually works in reality. So it's super important, and I just wanted to add that in.
Uh-huh. No, it's true. And we have more product types are actually launching in September. And right now, for all ICP members, this is kind of a mystery of what those product types are. And I've thought since day one launching these, where I know people even inside the program are going to have shiny object syndrome. They're going to want to pivot. They're going to want to move on. But I'm glad we have coaches like Connor and like Lauren who can anchor people down to, hey, we already were in this. We already saw when, products were launching right in front of us, and we wanted to jump on them, but we're going to get much better results by doubling down where we are today. And so I think that that is so like so valuable for people to understand that when all these opportunities, when true shiny objects pop up, which are actual great opportunities, they do pop up and they're presented in front of you. To not waver from where you are is going to lead you to your goal so much faster. Don't be a pinball and bounce all around from product type to product type to product type. Doesn't matter how good it is. You'll never get anywhere if you're not focused. So yeah, thank you for expanding on that. That's super good. I think people even inside of ICP, whether you're, looking to join or you're in ICP, I think everyone's going to get a lot of value out of that completely. So thank you so much. Okay, so moving to the next one. How can sellers prepare now for a successful Q4 season?
Well, we always talk about that you can never over prepare for a product, so
Uh-huh.
or a Q4. But I think some takeaways that we can lean into for that is, again, going back to being consistent and focusing on one product. That's exactly what we're doing too. Like, we're going back into the research. We're making sure that our foundation's super strong, our listings are super strong. We're super confident with what we're posting. I think that's key, is making sure you know what you're posting. You're not just posting to check off a box of like, I have 50 listings up. Like, there's purpose, and um, we genuinely take that time to make sure what we're posting is really good. So
Mhm.
again, it goes back to what we've been talking about, just setting up that foundation, really leaning into it. And once we get to the really fun part, which is the designing and listing, we know that it's going to be, executed really well. So I think people just leaning into one product, staying focused, and they can see beautiful results from Q4 and what it has to give.
That's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
Jessie G, when I interviewed her, she actually said a very similar thing that you were kind of alluding to. She said it in a different way, which was that when she makes a design, she feels as if her design is clearly better than anyone else's on Etsy. So, this is my question for you guys. I have never asked you this before, but when you guys are listing a product or launching a design, how do you feel about that on a typical basis? I know not every time you're going to get it perfect, but do you naturally feel like, oh my gosh, my product's going to win? Or do you feel kind of unsure? Or what does that internal feeling feel like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. You should feel like it's the best product that's out there on the marketplace. And that's how we feel. If we're not at that point, it's an indicator that you haven't done enough research or you haven't spent enough time up front. If you don't know what that top variation is, what that top font style is, what that top color is in that product category, you're not ready to post yet. So
Mhm.
you should feel like it's a bestseller, it's a winner every time you post a listing. And I think the pendulum swung too far in the direction of like mass uploading listings and the tools to do that.
Yes.
And there's a strategy and that can work in some cases, but like we lean more towards like posting the best listing in that market, in that product category, and being super confident, like you and Jesse G brought
Mhm.
up.
And I think something I just want to add to that too, that we've seen a lot of people deal with, and us too, is it can be challenging thinking the design that you're posting is the best design because you want to post what you like.
Mhm.
And then I think the hurdle that people learn through POD and the research and understanding their customers is not everything you post is going to be something you love. And it's just the reality of it. At the end of the day, you want to see the results. You're not the one buying your design. You want the customer to buy your design. So I think it's something that's important to touch on because people get in their own way of like, well, I like this design, but why isn't it selling, or why aren't the clicks selling, or what's going on with that. So I think it's just important. We had to overcome that. There's designs we post and I'm like, I don't know how this is selling, but
Uh-huh.
it is because we've leaned into our research and kind of gotten out of our own way. So
Yeah.
that's something I just would encourage, is try and get over that hump of, this is the design I love. I love it. Like, it should sell. And really lean into your research and the facts of what is selling. So that's just a little tidbit
Yeah, I
of
love
that.
that. Yeah, I always refer this as like the internal gut feeling, but it's purely backed by data. So there's a big difference between something that you personally love and something that you think is going to absolutely dominate. And there's something that happens when you've done enough research, you've dug in enough, you've gone through the reviews, you've gone through the top sellers, you've gone through the entire product type where you get this level of confidence that is disproportionate to the market, and your results will show for it, but you'll feel it. So if you are a seller today, no matter what category you sell in, you should have that gut feeling be kind of an indicator of how much research, how much development, how much skill that you've developed for that product type, how much is actually there. Because if you're not really getting above like 50% of the time, you don't feel very confident in your design, that is a huge red flag that you need to go back to the research. Because I will tell you this, I am a very humble person, but I get really excited with things. And for me, I may come off as arrogant when, like, for me, developing products and launching products, because I'm like, this is way better than what anyone else has. And it comes off that way, but it's way more from a standpoint of confidence in your research and confidence in the process that you were plugging into. When you're plugging into search volume, doing it in a super relevant way with a design that is going to pop off the page and stand out to a potential buyer, you feel really good with each listing you launch. So that should be the natural feeling, at least 80% of the time. Like Lauren said, even some of the designs that you do launch, you may be like, okay, I tried my hardest. It wasn't the best. And it's like, it is what it is. And you're like, oh my gosh, it's a bestseller. What the heck? How did that happen? Well, it happened because the research you did on the front end helped lead you there. So even if you don't feel it 100% of the time, I think getting at least bare minimum above the 50% kind of threshold internally, like 50% of the time, at least you should feel super, super confident in the design you're launching. So really, really awesome there. Okay, so moving down the list, what are your guys' goals now? We're getting real close to Q4 now. I know everyone's getting all excited, but what are your goals kind of coming out of Q4 this year for 2025 and on? What are your guys' plans for the future?
Yeah, so I mentioned it a little bit at the beginning, but we see other people in this industry, like you, Jesse, as an example, and a bunch of the people you've coached who have ran way higher numbers than us. And so we look around and look to them as motivation and know that there's still so much to grow in this space. And so we're ready to double down on that and continue to grow our Etsy shops and potentially launch additional ones when it's the right time to do so. We've also this summer brought on a VA to our team to help get ready for Q4. And so we're going to be looking to expand our team there to continue to grow. And then on the other side, continue to pour into people on the coaching side, right?
Mhm.
Like I mentioned, we love getting to meet all these people and just be a small part of their journey. And we truly mean that. It it's just been amazing. So we're super excited to continue to do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, perfect. Well, if you guys who are watching it right now, if you are wanting to learn a little bit more about Inner Circle Prints or even have the opportunity to work directly with Connor and Lauren, there's a link in the description below. You can check that out. It's an application for Inner Circle Prints. You can go through the questionnaire and then learn more. And if you are accepted in the program, you'll get a full overview video that goes in depth on everything we do with ICP. So, perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on today. There was so much value that you poured on. Is there anything you want to leave the viewers with, or do you feel like you covered everything you wanted to talk on today?
I think the most important thing is that this is an opportunity that anyone can go for. And I think that the biggest thing that we can encourage people to do is the only way that you can fail is if you quit. So I think it's really important to understand that this process takes time, but it's definitely worth doing and it's possible for anybody. And you just have to prioritize it and not necessarily just say it's a side gig. It's a true business and make it a top priority. Because life gets really busy and I guess it comes down to how bad you really want it at the end of the day. So yeah, we're excited for anyone that jumps onto this journey and it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you both so much for coming on today. I really super appreciate it. And we will talk soon.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Jesse.
Jesse.